So am I. Let's go. And we are live. Welcome to another edition of the Manja Cast. Papa Chris Bisignano. Owners' meetings are done. But first, my friend, Chin
Chinzano, my man. Chinzano.
What are you drinking tonight?
I'm finishing the Kendall. Jackson. Finishing up the bottle, buddy.
Wait a second. The same bottle from last Wednesday?
Yeah, I've only had it a few times this week. Yeah.
All right, I'm working the decoy tonight.
Okay.
Can't even see it. I gotta figure out my lighting situation.
He looks like the Invisible Man. Okay, now I got it now. You're good.
Working the decoy. I got some appetizers. You got appetizers.
Me?
Oh no.
I do?
That's my
it's your appetizer, buddy. So
and
what did you make? First of all, what do we got on the menu tonight before we bring in guests and talk about the rules? What do you have in the menu? Wow, look at that.
Cacio e Pepe. A simple Roman dish. This is common man food. This is what the people eat. I'm going to teach you how to make Cacio e Pepe. Just like that.
Looks like a very simple thing to make, Pop. Am I right?
Even you could make it.
What does that mean?
Then I got some appetizers. Straight out of Hoboken, because I flew up to New Jersey yesterday. I had something to do with the Giants. Flew up yesterday morning, flew back last night. So take a look at this.
Oh, wow. That looks excellent.
Right, so beautiful Italian bread.
Okay,
then I went to my place. Now, Hoboken's got a lot of places. The Bronx has a lot of places. One of my favorites is Vito's in Hoboken, fresh mutts. So I got some fresh mutts on here, and Vito's sells sun-dried tomatoes and sun-dried peppers. So I just sliced a little of that bread, didn't even toast it up. Sun-dried tomatoes, sun-dried peppers, courtesy of Vito's Deli in Hoboken. Some of the best fresh mutts ever.
So you hit there yesterday afternoon?
I went there yesterday afternoon. I stopped in at 2:30. I got a couple pounds of it, brought it back. Now, here's the thing about fresh mutts. You know you don't refrigerate it?
No, you put it in the freezer.
Well, you put it in the freezer if you're not going to
wrap it up. Yeah, that's one of your tips.
But like a pound is going to go fast. You leave it out on the counter. You never put it in the refrigerator.
No.
Dries it out. Makes it shangat. Then it's like having polio. So we're going to be joined by Mike Garafolo, I believe tonight, somewhere in the show. He of NFL Network to talk about the owners' meetings, proposed rule changes. What'd you think? I mean, nothing really surprised me. Anything surprise you?
No. The one proposal, I believe it was the Lions about not making an automatic first down with the interference and all that stuff. I knew that had no chance of passing. It didn't. Now, the Philly Tush Push, all that stuff was tabled, right, to May, which means what, Pop? Which means it's catching a little momentum, right? Some people are making arguments about eliminating the push. Now, Bob, when we talk about this rule, right away, everything's always seems focused on the Eagles play, right? Jalen Hurts getting pushed from behind, first downs, all that stuff. But it's in general, Bob, where this has gotten out of control. And what I mean by that is this. So many times we see guys, it could be a running back, it could be a receiver, it could be a tight end inside the 10-yard line, it could be the middle of the field, where he's surrounded, he's stopped by 2 or 3 defenders, and then you get 2 offensive linemen come down the field and push him and pull him across the goal line or across the first down marker.
Yeah, it's not football.
Bob, it's not football. It's not a football play. It's a rugby play. So
right,
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know a lot of people when this is mentioned, it was obviously brought up at the rules committee and they tabled it to May, which means they're talking about it seriously. And I know a lot of people automatically go right to the Eagles. But it's a lot more than the Eagles play, Bob. It's what's been going on the last 3 or 4 years with ball carriers getting pushed or pulled down the field. And it's out of control. It's not a football play. And I hope they get rid of it in May, Bob. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, so do I. And we're going to have Mike Garafolo joining us here on the program to talk about this a little bit. You know, again, I don't like the fact that the league in 2004 allowed the pulling and the pushing. Mm-hmm. I think you've opened up a Pandora's box that it took a long time, but Philadelphia figured it out. So it's not a knock on the Eagles. I just don't like the scrums that happen on other parts of the field. And you don't let the defense push. You don't let on special teams. You can't even line up over the center on special teams. You can't push guys into them to vault over them. You can't push and pull as a defensive player, like pull your teammate into the pile. Mm-hmm. You can't do any of that. So to me, it's not an anti-Philly thing. Yeah. To me, it's an anti-football player. Lindsay's going to let us know when Mike is ready. We're going to pop him on the program, and we'll get into some of these things. But when I hear that it's tabled and they have 16 votes, it tells me that they're going to figure out a way to get it through. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, longtime compadre, joins us here on the Manja Cast. Mike, welcome.
What's happening, guys? How we doing?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
Got any red? You got any red tonight?
I got some brown.
Okay.
Nearby.
Get yourself some brown. Mike, I saw. I open the show because I make a dish every week. So tonight I'm going to teach our audience how to make a little Cacio or Pepe. Very easy. Very simple to make. But I said to Biz, I flew up to Jersey just for the day yesterday. And I hit my place vetoes. And I brought back the fresh mozzarella, the sun-dried tomatoes, the sun-dried peppers, and some good old-fashioned Hoboken Italian bread. What do you think?
Beautiful. Yeah.
You can't get that bread and flour to there, Pop.
No.
You cannot. No. I hope it held up for a day on a flight too. I tried to do that. I tried to bring it to California one time for somebody, and it didn't. The mutts didn't really hold up. So.
Well, let me tell you something about the mutts, Mike. It never goes in the refrigerator. Never refrigerator. It ruins it. The guys at Fiore's and Vito's told me the same thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you're not going to eat, freeze. But the rest of it, eat it within 2 days, but leave it on the counter. Never put it in the fridge because it takes all the moisture out of it.
Yeah. The only mutts in the fridge is what you get in your supermarket, which you shouldn't be buying anyway. So.
What's your go-to meal, Mike? When you're craving something, what's the Italian meal that you most love? Last week we did. I made chicken parm for Michael K and chicken piccata for Biz. But what's your go-to?
If it's a red sauce, it's a bolognese. If it's and I wind up making it myself because you get it in the restaurant. They put cream all over it. The carbonara, which there should not be any cream in there. So I actually made it probably 2 weeks ago. But it's so hard with the kids. That's something I would do if I'm just by myself, making it just for myself. Because my wife is gluten-free, so obviously the gluten-free spaghetti's not gonna, you're not gonna have it al dente the way I like to have it there. So that would be the one that I would have if it's made properly. If you're in the right place, if you're your local corner Italian place here in Hoboken, even will put cream in it. So it's got to be like a gourmet place that does it the traditional Italian way.
Biz, had my carbonara. I taught Phil Simms on this show how to make an authentic Roman carbonara. I had all the pictures. We put it up. I went step by step on how to do it. It's really not that hard.
It's not hard. It's one of the easier dishes you can make. The only problem is I burned the burned the bacon. Yeah, the guanciale. I burned it a little bit too much. So that pissed me off because you don't want it like crispy, like American bacon. You want it just cooked a little. So
and Vito's also sells the guanciale in the nice big pieces, so I can get it there. Go to Vito as soon as you go in, right on the right, they got it. And then
I go to Biancamino for that. That's a nice, the husband and the wife are right there, so I like to go in there and give them a little business here and there. You wind up paying way more for regular dried pasta than you would elsewhere. But I like to support the local businesses there.
And the
Are you in Hoboken, Mike? Are you in Hoboken?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the key thing when you're making it is that you got to make sure that you take some of that pasta water and some of that guanciale oil that you take aside out of the pan because you don't want it too greasy. And then you got to make sure that you temper that egg cheese mixture very carefully, because if you just put it directly on the pasta and it's too hot, you get scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And then it's no bueno. All right. So, Mike, are we going to see the Tush Push ban? They got 16 votes. It's been tabled. Usually that tells me that they're leaning toward figuring out a way to strong arm enough people to make sure it gets banned.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be, and I heard you just before I came on. I think it's going to be part of going back to no pushing, no pulling, because, it's not just, you got to think in terms of, all right, so the Eagles were sort of the innovators here. And if you do it the way that the Packers wrote the proposal, which is immediately after the snap, okay, so you can't push the quarterback immediately after the snap. All right, so we'll find some variations and ways to do that. Why don't we push the offensive lineman? Because that's not part of the way that the Packers wrote it. So I think it's just going to be a blanket, no pushing, no pulling, for anybody on offense on any part of the field at any time. I sounded like they couldn't even remember initially. Somebody had to be reminded why they allowed it in the first place. I remember, at some point I started covering the Giants in 2004. I don't know if it was 2004 or 2005 when they made the change to then allow it. But I remember a play where that happened, and I was like, you can't do that. That's illegal. And it was like, no. They changed that rule at some point. And I was like, wow, I don't even remember that being changed. And they couldn't remember why they did it either. And eventually they all talked, and somebody remembered, well, it was too hard for officials down the field to officiate that, which I really don't understand why that's hard for them to officiate that. So, again, especially with replay being involved now, maybe that'll be part of it as well. No pushing, no pulling. So not a specific targeted, we're going to take this play out, but it'll be a byproduct because they're going to get more support for it that way too.
And that's the way it should be, Mike, because it's turned into a rugby play now. Forget about the Eagles, Mike. Forget about Hertz and all that. So many times, Mike, we see guys, a ball carrier, receiver, tight end, stopped on the 3-yard line, defenders stop them, and then two offensive linemen come down and push him across the goal line for a touchdown. It's not a football play, Mike. There's just too much of that going around.
That part doesn't bother me.
Really?
It doesn't bother me. It's innovative. I made the case that when the Wildcat showed up, that didn't look like the football that we were used to. They didn't outlaw that. They just found ways to stop it, right? And we had this discussion with we'll call it a defensive-minded head coach, Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and I had him kind of cornered, and we were like, well, why are the Eagles so much better at it? And it said, basically, it's a commitment, right? Like they started it, they've repped it more than anybody. They've got guys that are willing to do what you need to do. Jordan Mailata and Michael Robinson, my colleague at NFL Network, pointed this out. Most of the time, if not all the time, Jalen Hurts falls to his left off of he says, watch it from now on. He falls to it. So that's Mailata, he said, is the key to that entire play because he gets the push, and that's the way that they want to go. Now, that's two spots out from the center there, but he said that that's what causes the push and for that to happen. If you watch Chris Jones in the Super Bowl when he got hurt, he was kind of turned sideways trying to get in that A gap into the guard to stop the momentum at that point on the left side at that point. So, I don't.
It doesn't bother you, Mike?
It doesn't bother me
guys
that it
down
doesn't.
The field. Forget about the Philly push. I'm talking about just guys pushing guys down the field, pushing a ball carrier 3 yards down the field when he's stopped by 2 or 3 guys.
Well, I mean, I think that's first of all, this is being talked about now, and this is what the people that wanted it banned wanted it to become a health and safety topic because they knew they were going to get more support from that rather than, well, this team is really good at it and a lot of teams are good at it, so we want to get rid of it because it's hard to stop. They wanted it to become a health and safety thing, and they did that. I give them credit because I didn't agree with it. They did that without the data, and the conversation down there in Palm Beach was, well, there's not enough data. What do you? I mean, the play's been run for 4 years. There's been no injuries. That's plenty of data. What you're saying is there's not enough negative data. There's nobody that's gotten hurt, and they're like, well, it's coming. Okay, well, it's
not severe injury, but Mike, 2 years ago, the Giants, who don't run it well, lost 2 offensive linemen trying to run it because they ran it badly. Both guys got hurt on the play. So there is injury.
Yeah, and Chris Jones got hurt because they tried to, instead of having him go, they tried to get him, and he got hit here and he suffered a neck injury. Again, not severe. But I mean, that's the whole point of even the kickoff play, right? They changed the kickoff and they said, well, the injury data is now in line with a regular play from scrimmage. It's football. There's going to be injuries. They're trying to take the severe injuries away from the kickoff. So that argument in this regard, if you don't have any severe injuries, I don't buy that either. But I just, they're, now that they got to this point, and I thought about this the other day, now that they've said, well, a severe injury could happen. Well, if they don't take it away and they don't vote to ban the play, and a severe injury does happen, well, now that player's, hey, you guys had the chance to take this out. You didn't. You knew it was dangerous, potentially dangerous, and look what happened to me. So there's now a liability that they open themselves up to by saying it could be and then not take it away. So, again, I think in the end, I think that's why they're going to have the momentum. And the next vote, just so people be clear, the next vote on that could be in May. In the middle of May, there's a meeting in Minnesota where that could happen.
So you think they ban it, Mike, in May? Is that the feeling you're getting?
I think they've got enough momentum for it, and it's not because again, some folks had they were poking holes in it during the conference. Okay, well, you're banning this, but I could do this, and what if you did this? There's too much gray area. If you take out no pushing, no pulling of any kind of your teammates, you're just pretty much every man for himself. Then that's going to take away that play, and it'll take away the stuff you're talking about, which is guy down the field, he stood up. Guy comes from behind him and hits him in the back to try to push him forward.
Right. Got the great Lou Bavaro weighing in. Big Giant fan, no relation to Mark. Naples, Florida weighing in. My question, Mike, they also tabled the reseeding. I am adamantly against it because for every year that you get a scenario like Minnesota this year, I mean, there are years where, let's face it, let's say Cleveland gets their quarterback situation squared away and Pittsburgh signs Aaron Rodgers. You got 4 legitimate playoff teams in that division based on the rest of their roster. Getting out of a division, and maybe that year your division's playing a tougher schedule, you may be a division winner that has 11 wins, and there may be a 12-win wildcard team that's playing in a lesser division, and the division that they play in the AFC could be a weak division that year. To me, it's just like the double-digit teams that sometimes don't make the playoffs on a tiebreaker. The times that we had the below 500 division winner twice. The Rams did it, and Washington did it in 2020. The instances are few and far between to not reward the team that wins the division to get a home playoff game. And for all the people that bitch and moan, and I have a lot of close Minnesota Vikings fans, they're like, well, why do we have to go on the road to St. Louis? Hey, by the way, during the regular season, you lost to the Rams too. So you lost to them twice. Do you think that's got a chance of passing, or do you think they'll hold steady on if you win your division, you have earned the right to host a playoff game? And some years, there might be a team with a better record coming to you, but there's the degree of difficulty of the schedules. It's not baseball where you play everybody. It's not the NHL where you play everybody. You don't play everybody every year.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it wasn't just killed, that it was kept alive for further discussion. And I'm surprised that Roger Goodell sort of was indicating that there's an element there that he's in favor of. And the element would be the one that seems to have the most traction is that a sub 500 team that wins the division, you got to be above 5. Like if you win the division, you're above 500 or at 500 if we add the 18th game. If you're sub 500, then you don't host the game. Then you're playing that game on the road.
That seems
to have, which would be the the fourth team, so the fifth team, the fifth seed would host the game. Not the fifth. The fifth would become the fourth. But basically, that's that first wild card team and that last division winner. It would be flipped, which last year would have meant that the Chargers would have played the Texans, same game, but it would have been the Chargers hosting it.
Yep.
The NFC would have been all scrambled based on what Detroit had proposed. Pardon me, Houston wasn't, based on what Detroit proposed. Houston and the Chargers would have flipped. Houston was not a sub 500 team. In fact, you go back, the Seahawks in 2010 or 2011?
2010, Mike.
2010.
They beat the Super Bowl champs, New Orleans, at home. And
they
were 7-9.
hosted, and they were 7-9. The Saints were an 11-win team, and the Seahawks won. And you could say that they won because that was the Beastquake game, and they had the home field advantage. The question is, did they deserve it? Right? I mean, that's what you're getting to. And if does that validate that they should have had the game, or does it make the argument for the other side that, hey, they only won that game because they were home and it was so loud? Carolina won. It was 7-8-1. They won a game against the Cardinals at home because they won the division. The Commanders in 2020. Now this was the COVID year, so it wasn't a true home field advantage. Lost to Tampa Bay. Wound up playing them pretty tight, and Tampa wound up winning the Super Bowl. So the teams that have had that advantage have played well in that spot. But again, I don't know whose side that works for, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you got me sold on the rare time that a division winner finishes below 500. That maybe they don't get the home playoff game. But I think if you're 500 or above and you win your division, you get a home. In my opinion, you get a home playoff game because there's a good chance in the AFC this year, the division winner in the AFC North might not have a great record. Like, might not be a 14-win team. Because, again, if Rodgers plays for Pittsburgh and Cleveland figures out their quarterback, there's 4 quality teams in that division, which means, and even the NFC East, if Dak is healthy, you could say whatever you want about the Cowboys and their playoff failures or whatever. But the last 3 years that Dak was healthy, they won 12 games each season. Washington is appreciably better, and Philadelphia are the Super Bowl champs. It's going to be a battle royale in that division, which is going to, plus they play the AFC West this year, and they play the NFC North this year.
NFC North, yeah.
I mean, so you're dealing with the schedules are not equal.
No, they're not, and it's a lot of times when you get that sub 500 team, you don't go, to me, you don't say, well, look how good every other team was. It was, look how bad that whole division was. Does anybody want to win that division? And something. There's week 14. Does anybody want to win this division? And the NFC South has been in that ballpark. I saw Todd Bowles saying that this year for his goal in 2025 is we got to blow teams away. We got to pull. We can't leave this to the last week of the season, especially because they've had the chance to pull away, and they've had teams that have just not been good, and they were playing down to those teams, and they've had these midseason swoons. So I just, that's the only thing there is you don't say, well, that team was so bad in a sub 500 because it was a tough division. It's usually because it was a bad division. They just happened to be the one that came out of it.
Mike, I hope they don't do it. I hope they get rid of it. I still hope there's some incentive to win a division and get a reward, even if the team is 8-9, whatever. I still think I don't want to see that, Mike. To me, if you do that, then you might as well just make it 2 conferences and make a 1-7, like the NBA. And
but that's what they don't want. They don't want it to be to them. And Rich McKay, the co-chair of the competition committee, had mentioned that divisional play and divisional identity in the NFL has worked really well to make the NFL what it is. They don't want to go away from that. But I mean, listen, if you're a sub 500 team, you win a division, you get in the playoffs. That's a reward, right? Getting in the playoffs is a reward. You won that division. The question is how big of a reward, and if they don't play that home game, is it then okay? That's a fair reward. I mean, it's tough. It's weird.
It's a tough call. Yeah,
it's weird, and I think that there's a lot of people who go, yeah, it sounds right, but it's been this way for so long. Like it's going to take more conversation. I actually don't think that this is just me speculating. I don't think that this is something for 25. I think this is something that gets discussed again in May, and then we'll come back to it next year and see how things play out, see how people feel at that point.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I'll be shocked if they changed anything this year.
Mike, replay. Look, I like the fact that they're adding a little element of replay. I've had numerous conversations with many people on the competition committee over the years, which the defenseless receiver should have always been reviewable because normally it's on a 3rd and long. You're trying to press the ball down the field to get big yardage, and it's a bang-bang play, and within seconds we see on TV he blew that receiver up, but he did it all legally. But the flag came out, and officials have told me they were instructed for player safety, err on the side of safety, throw the flag regardless on that play. Now it's under review. Now it can be reviewed rightfully. Why are they so resistant to review other things? Like if a flag is not thrown on a bang-bang play and we can clearly see that the receiver was hit in the head or neck area and everybody in America can see it, or if the Sam Darnold face mask or others where a guy, I can't remember what game it was this year, but there was a running back running through the hole, got face masked so drastically that in order to protect himself, he let go of the ball, fumbled, no flag was thrown. Why are they so hesitant to allow the non-flag to be reviewed in these specific categories?
Yeah. It seems so easy, right? Like Sam Darnold gets yanked. The official doesn't see it. Everybody sees it. Half the stadium sees it. Everybody at home sees it. And look, the play you're talking about down the field happened so fast. Bob, you've been down on the sideline. I don't think people have any idea how fast the action is. I always use the example. I was on the field late in the game, a playoff game, Seattle and Atlanta. Paul Richardson, the wide receiver for Seattle, makes a diving catch literally right in front of me. Diving catch. I had no idea if the ball hit the ground. No idea. I watched it. I was like, watch the replay. I forget which way it went, but on replay it was clear. And I was like, it happened right. I lose my house if I'm wrong. I am not confident in making that call. So it just that's what makes it hard. But it seems so obvious. Like Darnold gets yanked. There was one on Burrow as well. I think that might actually be the one you're talking about. I think he fumbled on that play, if I'm not mistaken. When
he got face masked so bad he tried to protect himself like any human would.
Yeah. I know it seems like it's just on the egregious ones. The problem is like, where do you draw that line, right? And I get it. And if you're doing that, they're still scarred from the pass interference year where they tried to review pass interference and it was an unmitigated disaster. Now, remember, that started with a blatantly obvious, we saw it on replay, how did the official miss it call in the NFC Championship game with Sean Payton yelling at the ref. I remember reading his lips. That's a Super Bowl call. You just cost us the Super Bowl by making that call. I know it's like we are all watching it. We know, but like, can we just where do you draw the line? That's the hard part, because now you're going to be officiating everything and every play within the it would be in the last 2 minutes, right? Like you're not going to do this all game long, but it would be in the last 2 minutes. Will we get there one day? I think we will. I think there'll be some kind of, because that's all coming from the booth too, which means they could stop every single play. There's no limit to these things, and maybe something like that is inside 2 minutes a challenge. You bring back the coach's challenge. That's gone away, right? Because everything's replay assist. Bring back the coach's challenge, for those kinds of situations.
Or just take the criteria that they've now set: face mask, horse collar, defenseless receiver, spotting of the ball, or whatever. Just invert it and just say, if we see on replay in the booth and in command that they missed a face mask, there was a hit that really the guy was defenseless that you missed, or there's a horse collar that you didn't call, but it clearly shows it was, just fix it and make that a penalty, even though there was not a flag. Now, I'll tell you the dirty secret, Biz, and I told you this, and I said this on my Sirius show. Here's the problem. Money. It's the problem.
But why? Why is that any different?
Well, here's the problem, Mike. And I said, here's the way you fix replay. And here's the way you make replay better, and you can incorporate more replay. Having worked in network television and actually called games for NFL Network on Thursday Night Football, I know what camera allotments are. And Amazon Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, CBS's main game, Fox's main game. We'll have anywhere between.
Fox is good. Fox is good across the board. Fox got a lot of cameras. CBS has very few.
So here's the thing. By rule, the minimum amount of cameras is 12. So you have CBS, Fox, Amazon, Netflix, whoever's doing standalone games, or CBS and Fox second-ended doubleheaders, and they have between 28 and 36 cameras. And then you get to the postseason, the Super Bowl, you're up to 65 cameras, which means you also have to have tape operators, extra tape machines, and people running all those things to take in the replays. Now, your average Sunday game that goes to the E team, where the announcers only work maybe 6-7 games a year. And again, I don't mean to be disrespectful to these markets, but it's Arizona against Jacksonville, or it's Tennessee against Jacksonville. And it's going to 12% of the country at 1 o'clock. Well, CBS and Fox are going to put 14 cameras, and they're going to have X amount of tape machines, but they're not going to spend a ton of money on a game that's going to 12% of the country. My fix is have the league and their gambling partners fork up extra money and make the minimum now 18 to 20 cameras. So now, because how many times do you watch a game on the red zone, and it's one of those games I'm talking about, Arizona playing a random game at 1 o'clock, and you don't even get a down-the-line shot to see if the guy broke the plane because they don't have enough cameras, and they don't have enough tape machines, and they don't have Skycam, and they don't have all the other cams. Well, it's hard to then say we're going to replay more stuff when certain games will have way better views than other games. So fork over the money, because I don't believe CBS and Fox, they're running a business. They shouldn't have to supplement these broadcasts. They're trying to save money, right? So it's simple. Fork over a few more bucks. Let's get more cameras at those lesser games. We have more angles, and now we can replay more stuff across the board.
Mike said, "Good luck with that."
Mike,
I can tell him. I can see his face. I can read his face. Like, yeah, good luck with that.
We had a nice party at the Breakers, which must have cost an arm and a leg. Pull from there. You know, if you're asking for extra money, something's going away, Bob.
Well, yeah, but you know what, Mike? Have the gambling partners chip in, because right now, what's the Monday chatter, right? What's one of the biggest things that's talked about on Monday are the missed calls. So let's eliminate some of the missed calls by making sure that all the games are on the same footing, because that game between Jacksonville and Tennessee that 12% of the country is watching on November 3rd, well, that call that you can't review because you don't have a good enough angle because you only have 14 cameras may wind up deciding the division winner, may wind up deciding whether one of those teams also earns a wild card spot. They're in the same league. Make it fair. My opinion.
I get it. But but also those camera angles also apply to picking up a flag as well.
Sure.
If you don't have the clean shot of that, that's going to be a problem picking it up as well. So there's always going to be that equity or lack thereof. Whereas the Chiefs are getting more cameras on them than anybody else. You see already they're going to be the Brazil game potentially, as well as playing on Christmas Day. So I mean that you know, is it an advantage or a disadvantage, right? It could be your disadvantage, because it could be an angle that takes a play away that you needed, basically.
I think it's more of a disadvantage. Biz, you got anything else for Mike as far as rules? Mike, you got anything you want to get off your chest? Because on the ManjaCast we eat, I'm eating. Biz is drinking.
We drink. Mike, what about the kickoff rule coming out to the 35?
Yeah,
that was one of those to use the old injury data, right? But now you're gonna have more. Now you're gonna have more returns, right, Mike? Because a lot of teams are not going to want to put the ball to the end zone and let it start at the 35. So, what'd you think about that change?
the 35 is definitely more of a penalty for the touchback than the 30 was. So on kicks that were returned, I believe it was just last year. This is from Darren Rizzi, who was one of the special teams coordinators. Bones Fossil, Darren Rizzi, Richard Hightower with the Bears.
Rizzi. Bergen Catholic
the
Zone.
guys. What's that?
North
Bergen
Jersey
Catholic Zone.
Oh,
Rizzi.
yeah. So Rizzi talked yesterday and said that I think it was last year, not just the last couple of years, but it could be the last couple of years. Regardless, it's a good number. 28.8 is the rough yard line of the average return. Not the rough, that is the average return. So if you're putting it at the 30, teams are saying, well, for 1.2 yards, I take away the possibility of them taking the kick to the house. Well, now it's going to be 6.2 yards, the difference between that. Now you're going to get a little bit more a conversation, a little feel. I mean, think about this. You're at the 35. You get a first down. You're not getting exactly 10 yards. So you're getting 10 to 15. You get one first down, 15. Boom, you're at midfield. And the way these kickers are kicking,
yeah,
you're not far out of field goal range.
Yeah,
on potentially one play.
Right.
For a lot of teams here when you're starting at the 35. So yeah, I think it's going to be huge. And I, the guys that are covering kicks and do a good job of that are going to become more valuable. So good for them, special teams guys. So I think you're going to see a lot more returns this upcoming year.
And I think with the setup, it's less likely to have the kind of injuries that were catastrophic, which is why they got rid of the 3-man wedge. I remember talking to John Mara about this going back to 2003. And the amount of severe head and neck injuries and knee injuries on kickoffs when dudes are running down the field, blowing up a 3-man wedge. Then they made it a 2-man wedge. Then they said no wedge. Yeah. But it's still violent. I think I like it in the sense that we get returns, but you're not getting 20 bodies flying at each other.
Yeah.
It's more like a punt return. I don't know. Do you have a problem with it?
I think they did a great job. And again, if it's one of these things where it doesn't look like it did before, if it's in the name of health and safety,
right?
And again, the tush push, you're not going to convince me it's a really dangerous play. But the kickoff wasn't hard. I wrote a story back in 05, 06, I want to say. Here's a name from the past, Bob. Adrian Awasam, a defensive end for the Giants, who suffered a severe neck injury. I don't know if he played again after that. I think he did. But he suffered a severe neck injury trying to bust a wedge. And I remember talking to him about it, and I quoted John in the story. And it was along the lines of what we actually eventually saw about, moving the spot of the touchback, eliminating the wedge, all these things. And they were tinkering with it all the way back there. And I remember because the kickoff was going away. And there was a thought that they're just going to take it out. They're just going to spot the ball.
Yeah.
And I remember David Wilson had a game against the Saints where he took 2 to the house and had like 250 return yards or whatever that game. And I remember talking to John after that game because at the time I was working for Fox or USA Today, I forget. And so this was more of a national type appeal. And instead of covering the game, I said, well, let me go talk to John. Because I was like, the kickoff is still part of the – and he admitted, he's like, yeah, it's still an exciting play. We got to make it safer. But it's still a part of a game that can help you win a game if you execute it correctly. So here we are 13 years after that and almost 20 years after the Awasam injury when we first had this conversation, still fine-tuning it, still trying to find a way. I think they've done a really great job. And you can see it. Just eyes, forget the data, just the eyes. The way that those players go about meeting at the blocking point is just night and day from what we used to see.
Night and day, Mike. Mike, let's shift to the draft. Okay.
Oh, can I do one more rule thing before we let him go?
Shoot.
Overtime. No brainer. No brainer.
Yeah.
Love it. People that talk about wanting to go to the college is more exciting. Look.
No, please.
The NFL's recipe is TV and TV windows. And you need the 1:00 games to end by 4:18 so that the second end of the doubleheaders are going to 85% of the country kick on time. You can't use college rules where the overtime could take 45 minutes. And you can't use the college rules if you're going to talk about player safety and you have a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, a touchdown, you could go on for 40 minutes and play a half a game. So the league got that one 100% right. One thing me and the late Dan Reeves always talked about, I'll never understand why they don't do it. You pay 53. Why can't you play 53? I don't understand. We're adding an extra man designated to return and all that other stuff. They should all be able to return. They made your 53. They're your best players. They should all be able to return. Long gone are the days of the Niners and Washington Redskins in the early 90s and the early salary cap days, tinkering with this stuff and playing games with the IR. And it's gone. That's over with now. It's a more centralized league. You pay 53, play 53.
Yeah, but if you have 53 and 5 are injured and the other team's completely healthy, they've got 53 and you've got 48. I mean, you could do the elevations and stuff like that, but then how do you do that if you take the guy off the roster? You'd have to have more. You'd have to have more of the elevations, the practice squad elevations, which I think are a nice touch. You'd have to have more of those. Yeah.
Elevate so that you can fill out as many as you need to get to you, or make it 51. Elevate it because if you're talking about player safety, and you get a rash of injuries during the course of the game, and now you're asking people to play more snaps. You're not on every specials, but somebody gets hurt. You're the third linebacker, and you play packages and you play on some specials. Somebody gets hurt. Now you've got to play every snap on defense. You've got to play your specials, and maybe the guy that you're replacing also was on some of the specials as well. And then you're paying guys NFL in-season salaries to be wearing sweatpants. I don't get it. I'll never get it. Just activate them all. There's always going to be a disparity with injuries. There's always going to be one team that's more injured with another, and then you fill it with the practice squad guys. But anyway, you said draft, Biz, because I know Mike has got to get to the Brown stuff when he can. And I got to ask him a food question. But go ahead.
Okay. Mike, let's go to the top of the draft. Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants. How you feeling that's going to go as far as which way you leaning towards Tennessee? Do you think Cleveland goes quarterback? And do you think the Giants are interested in Shedeur Sanders if he's there at 3?
Yeah. I think it's going to be Cam Ward at 1. I think that's pretty much a done deal at this point. And Tennessee, I don't think Tennessee throughout the process, I think firmed that up and really started to fall in love with what they were seeing from Cam Ward. Remember, it was a new regime, and you've got 2 guys there that have Borgonzi and Brinker have a lot of power basically, and you got they're not co-GMs, but there's there's a new regime.
Don't get me started on the Brinker thing because I have no idea what that's all about. But anyway, go ahead.
What do you mean? I just got you started.
Where did he come from? Where did he come from? He was there to help Rand Carton, and now he's the czar of their football with what credentials. But anyway,
I got you. Okay,
it's another story for another day. Listen,
it took him a while.
Bad for Rand.
It took him a while to get set up there and start the process basically. So now I'm not surprised that it wasn't like we knew early on. It was more we started to get the feel as we move forward. And then Cleveland, I honestly I'd be lying to you if I said I knew. And anybody who says they know, they're lying to you too. The teams have done a better job the last couple of years. It seemed like this was a lot easier to sort of get a feel for. And the NFL wasn't that way. They want this thing kept airtight because they want it to be dramatic. I mean, to the point of C.J. Stroud, we had reports the day before that Texans are not going to go quarterback. Of course, they're going to go quarterback. So I know that there was homework being done on quarterbacks by the Browns late last season, but they knew where they were going to be, so that shouldn't surprise anybody, right? You've got, whether it's Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, you've got real potential buyer's remorse if you take a quarterback at 2 or 3, and these guys wind up being generational players, and they both have the chance to do that. So it to me, it's what I want to see happen. What I want to see happen, because I know the Giants really like Travis Hunter, really like him. What I want to see happen for drama purposes. I don't care either way who takes who. I don't care. But when I watch the draft, I want drama. And we had good drama last year with like Michael Penix. It was fun. And the Giants too. I want to see Ward 1, Carter 2, and then the Giants have themselves a decision. Because then it's like, we know what they think of Travis Hunter. We know they don't necessarily need an edge rusher. I mean, you hate to say that when you've got an Abdul Carter there, but if he goes to, I know.
It's not like Thibodeau's set the world on fire.
What's the greater need, right? Like, what's the greater need? A two-way player who can be a lockdown cornerback, or a guy in a position where you feel pretty good about where you are on a roster that's not complete. Anyway, I'm not saying it's not.
So you trade Banks, you think?
To do what?
Well, if you take Travis Hunter,
you don't have to trade him. Goes and competes and see if you can give. You can never have enough corners either, Bob. I mean,
right? But you're not getting rid of
who's going to take? What are you going to get for him?
Paulson Adebo starting.
I get that. Okay.
And Drew Phillips plays slot.
Listen, Corey Webster was benched at one point. Wound up coming back and being a key piece on the team and signed a $43 million deal after that. It can happen. So I just, to me, that's a we need the quarterback, but this guy can come in and help us right away. I mean, I give the reporters credit. They tried every possible way to get insight into what the Giants were going to do by asking Brian Daboll, if you take a guy at 3, does he have to contribute immediately? And Daboll said, you do what's best for the organization. If that means a guy, he dodged. He knew what was going on.
You're not getting anything at a Daboll.
Yeah. So it's a fact because look, you can take the quarterback. Let's look at it in terms of, this is not the way that they draft, right? This is not the way they draft. But in terms of Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, kept their jobs, but not by a whole lot, right? Necessarily. Not by a whole lot. So now they have to decide. You get the quarterback and say, hey, look, this guy played well. Let us stick. We got a little sample size. That's one way to keep your job. The other way is to win games. So if you take the quarterback and he's not playing, or he just needs a little bit more seasoning, he's not going to help you year one. Well, then let's say you take Travis Hunter, and he helps you win games because he's playing immediately and he's contributing and everything else you did in the roster. And Russell
Wilson on the other side of the ball
wins.
for you.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson gets you 8 wins. That's great. However, you just put yourself in the middle of the first round next year, and you got the same problem at the quarterback position one more time. I find it fascinating. I think it's gonna be great theater. I can't wait for draft night.
I don't know who this guy is on X. Fran Duffy at NFL. But he put out a tweet.
Yeah, I used to work for the Eagles.
Okay. So he put out a tweet yesterday of quarterbacks taken in the top 3 by coaches on the fence. If we draft a quarterback, we could kind of save our jobs because we have to develop him. Listen to this list. Caleb Williams, head coach fired. Drake May, head coach fired. Bryce Young, head coach fired. GM fired. Trevor Lawrence, head coach OC fired after year 1. Baker Mayfield, head coach OC fired after year 1. Sam Darnold, head coach GM fired after year 1. Mitchell Trubisky, fired head coach OC after year 1. Jared Goff, fired head coach OC after year 1. Jameis Winston, fired head coach after year 1. Marcus Mariota, fired GM head coach after year 1. Blake Bortles, fired OC after year 1.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that doesn't mean it saves your job.
Yeah. I understand that. What's the common thread? All horrendous teams. And it's not every quarterback, by the way. It's just, that's a sample size to illustrate. It's not a guarantee, basically. And as you go through all those, I remember all the varying reasons for why those guys got fired, and they weren't necessarily the quarterback. Yeah. But I get the point there. I do. I get the point there. No, going back to my point before, my biggest thing is, if you don't take the quarterback and you're around next year, that means you were good enough to be around, and you're not going to be in position to get yourself. Now you're going through the whole circus again.
Mike, do you think they're in on Shador Sanders, the Giants? You think they like him a lot?
I think that there's support for him in the building. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, being on my end, covering him, Mike, I believe Dable and Shane like him a lot.
Yeah.
My opinion.
I do. Yeah, and I think they like some of these other guys too in that next tier. So now, right? Because this is the other possibility is you take whoever it is, Carter or Hunter at 3, and then you try to come back in the first round and get your guy late in the first round, a la Lamar Jackson or whoever, guys trading back into the first round or at the top of 2. I think there are folks in that building who like Jackson Dart as well. But I mean, I think you're going to see a number of teams are really going to like him, and you might be jockeying for position. And how high do you got to go? I mean, you got to get in the low 20s, or can you get him in the mid to high 20s or at 32?
Mike,
Mike,
opinion. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Biz.
No, just my opinion, Mike. I think Jackson Dart's going to go higher than people think, and I wouldn't shock me to see the Saints. Mike, I wouldn't shock me to see the Saints go with him. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I've seen him mocked there. I think the Saints are going to do something at the quarterback position, day 1 or day 2, and they're certainly checking out all levels of the quarterbacks that are potentially available. So they were so aggressive in bringing back Derek Carr, and I say aggressive because they tried to get him to take a pay cut, and he said no. He was basically ready to call their bluff, saying, I'm either going to get my full $40 million that I'm due this year, or cut me. I'll go get a fresh start elsewhere. And there's teams that needed quarterback. You don't think if Derek Carr was free, he wouldn't have been with one of these teams that needed a quarterback? Of course he would have been.
Absolutely would.
Speaking of Jackson Dart, Charlie Weiss is going to join us next week. Obviously, his son, the OC at Ole Miss, but Charlie's been great. Last year, he said in the fall, leading up to the draft, he said, if you ask me, 2 best quarterbacks in the draft are Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. He nailed the Dak Prescott thing. He was actually working for the Cowboys as a consultant. He recommended him. He's been pretty spot on with the quarterback, so he'll give us a full quarterback breakdown next week here on the ManjaCast. I don't want him to cook for him because he's lost 100 pounds. But, Mike, when you got to go out to eat and you're taking your wife out, the rare time you can get somebody to watch the kids in Hoboken, and it doesn't have to be in Hoboken, but when you're going for Italian, where's your go-to place? Where's your go-to place as a kid?
I'm sorry. Wait. Where are we going, and what's the second part of that?
Or where was like a favorite place as a kid and tied into your football passion as a kid?
Well, I was thinking steak. She doesn't eat. She can't eat gluten. She's gluten free. So, which doesn't mean she can't go to. We go to Leo's basically. Like you got Leo's, which is.
When I lived in Jersey City, me and my roommates would go to Leo's all the time and just play Sinatra songs as much as you can.
Yeah. So that's the old school traditional. Whereas, oh my God, Bob, up on Washington. Why am I blanking on the name of this restaurant? The Italian one, the like 6 tables in the whole place. Come on, it's like I don't even live in Hoboken.
Not Serafina's. Oh, I know what I can't think of it either. Anyway, but your wife doesn't know that you can. There's plenty of Italian dishes that don't come with pasta.
No, she does. She'll do actually a grilled veal parm, so there's no breading on the veal. It's you needed. She likes the grilled veal parm. She'll get the steak fries instead of the pasta. They do have gluten-free pasta, but it's not the same. So we'll go to Leo's. That's my old school place there. As a kid, I mean, we grew up in Philly, right? So as a kid,
can't go wrong.
Places in Philly, up at the Italian market, Villa di Roma, you used to go to a bunch. What the heck's the name of the place? I'm blanking on the names of places here tonight. There was an old school picture of the owners having crabs and spaghetti with, which is more of a Philly thing.
It's a Jersey thing. It's a Bronx thing.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, yeah.
My God, our family
never saw it up here.
It's not in a restaurant. You can't eat spaghetti and crabs in a restaurant because every time you break open the crabs and it's splattering everywhere.
Well, it's never. See, I haven't had it in forever, to be honest with you. But you don't really even eat that much of the meat anyway, because it makes the crab meat so soft that it just kind of, you're getting the big chunks out of the body of the crab, but you're not getting anything out of even the claws are.
I know, but you suck on it, and the tomato sauce sitting in there, and then if you eat it the next.
Well, if you're an animal, yeah.
But the next day it's even sweeter. When we had a house on LBI, when my kids were little, we had plastic everywhere, and we had our specific spaghetti and crab shirts because shit was flying everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You could never eat it in a restaurant.
Augustino's. That's Augustino's.
It takes
Augustino's
too long.
is more. Yeah, Augustino's is more gourmet type stuff, right?
Yeah,
it's still old school, but it's like a higher. I don't say quality of food because Leo's is great, but like Leo's is like, chicken parm. Don't even think about it. Boom, that's what you're having. Augustino's, you can get a little bit foofier.
All right, Mike, have you? So you say that you like to make your own bolognese.
Mm-hmm.
I made this unbelievable spicy chicken shrimp dish 2 weeks ago on the show at a restaurant here in Ponte Vedra, Vincenzo's. I used his kitchen; it was fun. I even got to. I used my own. I made up the recipe, and they actually put it on the menu. Last week, I did the chicken Milanese, chicken piccata. I did for Sims, the carbonara. For Judy Battista, I made a capellini rustica that was. So, have you ever made cacio e pepe?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Are we making it now? Is that what's happening?
Well, you don't have to sit
or you already
through
made it.
Yeah, but you don't have to sit through. I got to teach Biz how to do it, and our audience how to do it. I have video of it. Lindsay, how long is the video? Text me. Put in the chat. How long is the video? I want to see if Mike approves, like the Lions song, guys. 2 minutes. All right, let's roll it. Lindsay, let's roll how you make a cacio e pepe. All right? So you take your peppercorns and you toast them so you get that. Once you start to smell, Biz, the peppercorn fragrance as they're starting to toast in a pan. You don't put oil or anything, but you get them nice and toasted. Get your water going. You get your pasta in. So now I'm just toasting it on a medium heat. And when I start to smell the pepper, I know we're good. So now I'm going to chop it up, mash it up in my little pestle and mortar there, and I'm going to just grind it up. You want to leave a few chunks, though, because that gives it a little texture to the dish. So I get it mashed up pretty good. Now I've grated Pecorino Romano, and I've been grating and grating and grating because I don't like to use the pre-grated. I'm taking my Locatelli Pecorino Romano.
I'm with you.
Grated. Now I'm throwing some pepper in there. Throwing a little bit more of that pepper. I'm saving a little bit because I'm going to sprinkle it on top at the end. So now we got the pepper in there. So now we just get the ladle. Now my pasta's been in. You want it al dente like Garafolo likes it. And we're close to it being done.
Gotta have it al dente.
So I need a little of this because we're going to saute that. We're going to saute that pasta a little bit. So now I'm going to pour that in there. And basically, I take a fork and I just make a paste. Just like you would do with the carbonara. You're making a paste. Like you do with the egg and the Pecorino Romano. Take the pasta out. I put a little pepper in there. I've put a little pasta water in there. And I'm just kind of sauteing it. You can see a little of the pepper in there. And we're just getting that pasta cooked. We're getting a little of that pepper flavor in. And the next step here is to get my paste mixture, which I don't think I have the video of the paste mixture. I forgot to. Oh, there you go. And now, just on a low heat or almost no heat, I'm stirring that in, and I'm creating the cream from the pepper, the water, and the Pecorino Romano, and I'm just incorporating. Notice I got like the chef tongs there. And I'm going to add just a little bit more water because it feels a little dry for me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. We need a little bit more
so we
creaminess.
add a little bit more, get it going, and just kind of shake it up. And right there, it's starting to develop that cream. You see it at the bottom of the pan. And it's all coated. And we're ready to go. Now it's time to plate. Lindsay did a nice job with the video, editing that for me.
Yeah, very good.
I don't know why. Oh, she left that in there, and there you go.
There it is, Mike.
A little more fresh Pecorino Romano on top. I take a little bit more of that pepper, and boom, there you go.
Beautiful.
It literally takes no. It takes as long as it takes to boil the pasta because you could do the cheese and the pepper as the pasta is cooking. Because I use bucatini, Rummo's pasta, RUMMO, comes in that brown bag. And there you go.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
What did you think? What did you think, Mike?
I could tell it was cooked perfectly al dente. I love the texture and the consistency of the paste there. I think you did a phenomenal job. And it's gone.
And it's all gone. And that's that. And that's that, Mike. It's
Mike.
gone.
We appreciate you joining us. I mean,
Mike. Thank you, brother.
You're very generous with your time.
Thank you, Mike.
We appreciate you coming on the program, and we look forward to watching you on NFL Network, breaking stories, working 2 phones at a time with you and Rappaport and Pelissero. Pelissero, by the way, is very underrated. People do not give Tom Pelissero the credit because you're an insider. Ian's an insider. Schefter, who I worked with at NFL Network for years, insider, like breaking stories. Pelissero is sneaky fast.
You should get him on. Get him
Very
on
sneaky
the
fast.
MangiaCast. He's fake Italian, fake Minnesota Italian, though.
Yeah, he's a really good dude. And then Schrager's leaving, huh?
Schrager is at ESPN now. Wishing Peter the best.
Good dude. Anyway, Mike, we appreciate you taking time. I know your schedule's been busy. You were down at the owners' meeting, and you got kid duty, and I know what it's like dealing with little kids. But we appreciate you taking time to come on here with us and eat, talk food. Next time, though, make sure you get that brown stuff in a clear glass.
There you go. Yeah. Well, just to be clear, this is not 32 ounces of bourbon here. But
good.
This is what. Yeah.
Just water.
Yeah. Just water. Yeah, just water.
Next time.
Next time, Mike. Next time.
Bring it.
All right.
Bring it. Even Sims brought it. All right. Thanks, Mike Garafolo.
Thank you, Mike.
Joining us here on the MangiaCast. Hey, listen, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Cacio Pepe? Even you can that.
I like the dent. I can tell you made it the way I like it.
But you like things spicy.
Yeah, I know.
So when you toast those peppercorns, you can actually smell them. You smell them starting to toast. You don't burn them.
Right.
And then when you grind them up, they have like a little texture to it. And
that's a guy who works at my golf course.
Oh, Brandon, what's going on? We got to get Sean Jackson's comments up here. He's got a couple of them. Grew up in New York City, Brooklyn, Queens. Late stepdad helped me raise me a big-time boxing fan, HBO boxing, ESPN boxing with the great Teddy Atlas. Before we have a big fight, we got to get Teddy Atlas on. Thanks for following. And then you just grade the Pecorino Romano. It's so easy.
That
when
looks
your wife
really
goes
easy.
away on a trip, you're alone, and you got to cook for yourself instead of ordering that buffalo chicken pizza. Make yourself a little cacio pepe.
Oh, that looked easy, Pop. It looked good. Even like a simpleton like me could make. Yes. It was not one of your complicated whipping all this stuff together. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. No.
Well, listen,
nice
the chicken cutlet, parm, piccata, Milanese. There's a lot of steps to that. The shrimp dish was easy. You could make that shrimp dish in 15 minutes by yourself.
Right.
And even the carbonara. The carbonara is easy. It's one step extra than this because you got the egg. So you got to make sure that you do not put that egg, just like I made that paste, you got to make sure that the carbonara egg paste is not introduced to heat too fast because the egg will scramble. Chunks of egg in it. You want cream.
Nah, you don't want that. Yeah.
It's amazing, though, how many people go to Italian restaurants or think that they can make it at home, and how many people use heavy cream and milk to make carbonara or Alfredo. Neither needs either.
That looked good there, but
next week we're going to have Charlie Weiss on, Charlie Weiss Sr. Now, I know a lot of people out here are going to be like, of course he's going to talk about Jackson Dart. His son is, listen, Charlie doing the show on Sirius, he was all over Jaden Daniels as the best quarterback in the draft in October of 2 years ago. He said he will be a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. And he said, if I had the first pick in the draft, I would take Jaden Daniels. And if I had the second pick in the draft and Jaden Daniels went number 1, I would take Bo Nix. He loved those two guys. Ahead of Drake May, ahead of Penix, ahead of Caleb Williams. Not saying that he didn't like those guys. He nailed it with Baker Mayfield. He was working as a consultant with the Cowboys, and not that he made the pick for them, but he gave them the stamp of approval on Dak Prescott. That's a hell of a pick. And he's been right on these quarterbacks for the most part every year. And the ones that he says he thinks are going to be terrible pros have proven him right. So he's going to come on next week. We're going to do a full quarterback breakdown of what is a very weak quarterback draft. It's a weak quarterback draft compared to last year.
Compared to last year, absolutely. And look, we know what Charlie's going to say, and he's been hot on Jackson Dart for a long time. And he's going to say that at number 3, the Giants would be crazy to pass on him. And that's his opinion. And like you said, he's pretty good with these quarterbacks. And he also coached one that was pretty damn good, right? I think he knows about quarterbacks, Charlie. So
yeah,
that's what he's going to say. He's all over Jackson. I think he's probably going to say Jackson Dart is the best quarterback in his draft. No question.
And I remember him saying, I don't know if he'll say that. I don't know if he keeps it real. I think.
No, I'm not saying he's favoring him because of his son in Ole Miss. He believes it. I think he believes Jackson Dart is the best quarterback in his draft.
Well, all I know is he believed that Bo Nix was the second best quarterback in last year's draft. Now, time remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Look, I like Drake May. I think Caleb Williams will benefit from having, what we perceive to be real NFL coaches. Anytime you're hiring a guy for the first time and he's a first-time head coach, there's no resume to lean on. Right. Because there's been a million coordinators in this league that get a chance to be a head coach and stink at it for whatever the reason. Dick LeBeau, Hall of Famer, great player, great coordinator, bad head coach.
Yep.
Joe Walton, the former Jets head coach, is a tremendous coordinator. He's a bad head coach. And there's a long list of them.
Hey, you could even say recent times, Josh McDaniels.
Oh,
excellent quote. What?
That's 100% right.
Excellent coordinator, not a good head coach. You know. Hey, look, even a guy like Shermer, pretty good offensive mind, just a terrible head coach. You know.
100%.
And the list goes on and on.
Spags is a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. His one shot at being a head coach was a train wreck. An absolute train wreck.
I like to see him get another shot, Bob.
He ain't getting another shot. How is he getting another shot?
He had a couple of interviews this past offseason, didn't he?
He's not getting another shot.
You're 100% in that?
100%. No, I can't say nothing in life is 100%. 99%.
Now, let me ask you something. Why do you say that?
Ask me something.
If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again next year, and one of the main reasons why is their defense, you don't think he has a shot at being a head coach next offseason?
No. Because I think all these teams want McVay.
You're pretty adamant, and I noticed that. You're pretty
Because I think all these teams are looking for the next offensive McVay. Guy that wear joggers, guys that have the hair perfectly coiffed, the offensive creativity, the scheme, the this, the that, the other thing. Teams are not looking at defensive guys for the most part. And they're not looking for the most part. Brian Flores, I think if Minnesota has another good year defensively, will get a chance again. They're not looking to hire Spags. Let's say they win the Super Bowl next year. He'll be 66. What team is looking to hire a 66-year-old head coach to run their program from the defensive side of the football that in his one chance to be a head coach failed miserably? It ain't happening. It's not what's going on. They're all looking for the next McVay. They're all looking for the next offensive hotshot.
I know they're looking for the Kevin O'Connells and all that. But look, Vegas. Now I know Pete Carroll was a very successful head coach in Seattle, but
what defensive coach?
72-year-old.
Pete Carroll's a walk-in Hall of Famer.
I get what you're
who
saying.
Won on every level.
I'm not going to 100% rule out Spags.
Okay, so what defensive coordinator?
I don't know what's going to open up next year.
What defensive coordinator has gotten a job recently? Who New Orleans hire?
No, look, I know the way to trend out.
Who
I know
hire?
the way to trend.
Who'd Chicago hire?
I know the way to trend.
They're looking for young, offensive, hot shot guys that wear joggers and have their hair parted like soccer players and are hip and young and cool. They're not going to hire a 66-year-old defensive guy whose chance to be a head coach, unfortunately, was a train wreck. Why did Spags only get one shot? Just with the success that he's had Josh McDaniels get two? He's an offensive guy. Had Doug Marrone get two? He's an offensive guy. I don't see it. I'd love it. I'd be begging him to do the ManjaCast. And I would be asking if I could have him on as a weekly on my Sirius show. Because I love that man and his wife. And they couldn't be nicer people. They couldn't be text Spags. They'll text you right back. There's no ego or anything. And I'm not saying that you're wrong that he would be a good candidate. I'm just saying the league ain't wired that way right now.
Look, I agree with you, Bob. I'm just not ruling it out 100%.
Okay.
You are. You could. I'm just saying I'm not ruling it out. I get what you're saying. I know it's a very minute chance, but I'm just not going to rule it out 100%. But you are.
I am.
I know you are. Hey, what else is going around the league? Hey, Aaron Rodgers, when's he signing with Pittsburgh? We all know he's going to Pittsburgh, Pop.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he did the DK Metcalf weekend thing, what Mr. Rooney said.
There's no rush here.
Can I put a little perspective on Aaron Rodgers real quick, and then we got to wrap this thing up?
Yeah.
When he sat there for 6 hours with the Steelers, maybe he had a conversation with them. And he said, look, yeah, I want to come here. The money's good, but I ain't signing until May. Or I ain't signing until the end of May. Because I'm 41 years old. I'm going
to Australia for a month.
Correct. No, not facetious.
It's Rodgers you're talking about, yeah.
It's not just Rodgers. It's all these guys that have a resume, a Hall of Fame resume, and a life. And they plan things. And he knew he was going to be a free agent. He knew before he had that meeting with the Jets, he would not be a Jet anymore. He knew that. Mm-hmm. Lynn said, Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn's an outlier, but you're right. Defensive guy got a job. All right, Lindsay. Kudos. Young guy get first chance. My guess is if it doesn't work out for Aaron Glenn, it'll be a long time before he gets a second chance. Offensive guys, their second chance seems to come around quicker. But he's getting his first chance. Spags had a first chance. And again, I'm not anti-Spags. I'm pro-Spags.
Mike Vrabel getting a second chance, defensive coordinator one time.
But you know what Mike Vrabel
I know,
did?
I'm breaking your chops.
What did Mike Vrabel do in his first chance? He won.
I'm breaking your chops.
He won. You're
But-
breaking Michael Leon's off. So
but-
yeah, let me just finish my point.
Go ahead. Finish your point about Rodgers, and he's going to be going on vacation for 2 months. Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, he go. I was texting him last year during the Kentucky Derby because Bernhard Langer was coming back from an Achilles injury faster than we could have ever imagined at 66 years of age, and Aaron agreed to come on our telecast live to talk about the recovery from an Achilles because he went through it. And little did I know, he and Langer actually had communicated a bunch. Obviously, Langer's playing on the Champions Tour. He could utilize a cart, was limping all over the place. But Aaron was going to join us that Friday. But then the day got washed out because of rain. And then Saturday, he was at the Kentucky Derby. He's got other interests, like any other 41-year-old with a lot of money in his pocket has. And I'm sure he told them, look, I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not going to sign right now. Because if I sign right now, then I'm going to get ripped for not being there. But here's what I already have planned. I'm sure Pittsburgh said fine. Because I think
Sure he did.
my guess is that Aaron Rodgers also understands that when he does step in the building, there will be no shenanigans like there were with the Jets. Because with the Jets, as we saw in Hard Knocks, he was pretty much calling the shots and running the show with a head coach that was a guy who had no resume as a head coach and no success as a head coach. He's played for a storied franchise before. He's going to be playing for a head coach that there is certain things that they don't deviate from. It's non-negotiable. And for him to agree to go there, he's going in eyes wide open about certain things that will be expected of him. And he's not going to run over Mike Tomlin. He's not going to walk all over the Rooney family like he basically did with the Johnson family, making fun of Woody Johnson's kid, the head coach, and all that. So my guess is this is already predetermined. And all this media speculation is just that. It's speculation. My guess is they all are on page with whatever the plan is.
Did you say you were on a texting level with Aaron Rodgers? Is that what you just said? I was texting with him?
I did.
Oh,
I got to know him. So
sounds like a ManjaCast possibility down the road.
So when I was doing the American Century in Lake Tahoe, the NBC event, I did it for like 12 years. Bring my family out there. Sometimes it'd be solo. I got to know him. I got to know Romo. Got to know Witten. That's what people always say. How could you say nice things about Romo and their Cowboys? I'm like, because I know them personally.
Oh, God.
And in fact, Romo was at the Azalea at Charleston Country Club this past weekend. And my son was there working. And he spent 30 minutes talking with my son about football. And he remembered meeting him, and Nick was probably 10.
Right.
I got to know
Good dude.
Romo.
Good dude.
I got to know Romo, and I got to know Rodgers. Rodgers could have been nicer with my kids, Kathleen's kids. He took pictures. One of the kids had mentioned that their best friend was a Vikings fan. And Rodgers said, okay, me and you were taking a solo picture. Send it to your Vikings friend.
That's cool. That's cool.
He was great.
Right.
And
Good dude.
actually, his first preseason with the Jets, when the Giants and Jets, he sought me out on the field and gave me the biggest hug. We were talking about being in New Jersey and living where he lives, and I had raised my kids in Chatham, and so I felt sick when he got hurt a few weeks later. He's a good dude on a certain level.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like him.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little bit sad that he's not a Giant. I like him. That would have been kind of cool.
That would have been real cool. He would have been a ManjaCast guy for sure. But look, he's going to be a Steeler. It's just a matter of when he decides he's going to put the pen to the paper. That's all. But we all know he's going to the Steelers.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Bob. Speaking of, we mixed in a little golf there a second ago. I have to ask you something.
Ask me.
Did you see that people actually fell for this on Twitter?
Oh, the Tiger
yesterday?
Woods thing? Oh, my God.
You know what? I was getting that they thought
Tiger Woods sends out
that
a
Tiger
tweet
was going to
saying
play
that-
in the Masters.
about how he rehabbed.
It's some kind of
in a
chamber or
hyperbaric
something.
chamber.
Yeah,
He's
that
been
was
doing
it.
all these things, and his doctors and his physical therapists, and he's proud to announce that I can't wait to tee it up with Augusta.
Oh my God!
The most
I cannot
amazing part was
believe people fell for that. Yeah.
some of the people that fell for it are people in my industry
Oh really?
that are very respected reporters, broadcasters that were like, "Oh wow, this is totally amazing." Now I really can't wait to watch the Masters. I'm like, it's from an anatomy standpoint, it is physically impossible to
Even
tear
for
your
Tiger.
Achilles tendon, have surgery, and in 4.5 weeks be playing in a golf tournament. With a golf tournament, by the way, which you have to walk.
Yeah, hilly, very hilly.
I guarantee we're going to see a picture next Tuesday night before the Champions Dinner. He's going to be in a walking boot, my guess is.
Oh, absolutely. He had the surgery already, right? Pop?
Yeah, he had the
surgery, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have it within 2 days, just like Langer had it one day after. And Langer was playing in May. But again, 54 holes, Pro-Am, cart, 54 holes, ride. And even walk when Langer had bad lies or was in a bunker and stuff, he could barely get in and out of the bunker. So Tiger's going to walk the Masters 5 weeks after tearing his Achilles? Come
Not
on.
even Tiger. Not even Tiger could do
I
that.
can't believe anybody fell for it.
And he did. I was looking at it and going, I actually did a double take myself, like, nah, this can't be true. And I said, oh no, this is April Fool bullshit, you know. But people did go for it. By the way, Mike McDonald, what was he last year when he signed his first gig in Seattle?
Defensive guy. How old is he?
Your point was OC.
No. I said
and hairstyles. OC.
The first thing I threw in there was age. First thing I did was give Spag's birthday. First thing I did was Spag. I mean, it's just hard for me to believe.
I know.
Where everybody looked like McVay, LaFleur, McDaniel, and you're all hoping that you're going to catch that lightning in a bottle. And they're going to wear joggers, and at the owners' meetings, they're going to all be in their 30s and look awesome. Hey, listen, it's unfortunate because I think if he was an offensive guy, Spags would have gotten a second chance. Josh McDaniels got a second chance.
I agree.
Lou Bavaro weighs in. Dan Quinn.
Wasn't he
Where'd he go?
coordinator? And he's kind of older. He's not exactly young.
Let me ask you this, Lou Bavaro. Which, by the way, if you ever go to Naples, Florida, go to Mickle Bob's Ribs. They import their ribs from Denmark.
What the hell does this have to do with Dan Quinn?
Because Lou Bavaro.
Who's Lou
Lindsay,
Bavaro?
bring Lou Bavaro up.
Who's Lou Bavaro?
Bring Lou Bavaro's comment.
Oh, so you noticed Lou Bavaro.
Biggest Mark Bavaro fan. From New York. Best ribs you're ever going to eat in your life. Baby back ribs from Denmark, Naples, Florida, Mickle Bob's. And they have one on Marco Island. Lou, you're right. Dan Quinn. Here's the missing ingredient again.
Oh, here we go. Watch how he gets out of this one, Lou. Go ahead.
I'm not getting out of it. You didn't listen to my initial reasoning.
Okay, go ahead. I want to hear the Quinn one.
Did Dan Quinn not win division titles in Atlanta? Did Dan Quinn not take his team to within 30 minutes of winning a Super Bowl? He had success as a head coach. Spag's record as a head coach with St. Louis. Now you're forcing me to do this, and I don't. You're asking me to have to bring up information about a man that
I know the record with Spags. I
love the man.
The 2-14.
I
know
love
his record.
the guy.
You don't have to
even when
bring
he
it
was
up.
the interim head coach of the Giants, he had a losing record, but he brought unbelievable energy and was so positive and caring and
so.
But listen,
A guy who has energy
11.
of a
Wait
young.
a second. Biz. Lou Bavaro, great comment.
Which
Dan
one?
Quinn. Dan
Oh,
Quinn,
Quinn.
he got a second chance. You brought up McDonald. He's getting his first chance. Defensive. Spags was 11-41 as a head coach.
I know. But so you're saying that's the reason more than his age or the combination?
Age bias, side of the
Age
ball
and the
bias,
record.
and then the record. Because there was no age bias.
Okay,
And
but
Pete
now
Carroll,
would you agree?
There's no age bias, and there's no defensive side of the ball bias with Pete Carroll because I don't know. He won a national championship in college, and he was a very successful head coach with multiple division titles and playoff appearances and back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, including a Super Bowl win with Seattle.
Okay. I know the resumes, but Spagnuolo, would you agree, is a very youthful 66 with a guy who has that energy of a younger guy who's won numerous Super Bowls. I know as a coordinator,
but at the
you don't
end
think
of the
you don't think there's one team that might give him a chance and say, "Hey, get this guy in the building." Not one.
How many? Let me ask you this: how many defensive coordinators that get hired as a head coach fail miserably, get a second swing?
Besides Belichick?
Belichick beat Parcells in a playoff game.
He failed in Cleveland. Not
he did not
reasons.
Wrong.
He's different reasons. No, I know you're going to tell me about the move and all that. I know.
It's a huge factor.
But
It's a huge factor.
But he did have a losing record in Cleveland.
He had a losing record in Cleveland. But he also won a playoff game in Cleveland and had a winning team in Cleveland at the time that the owner pulled the plug on him. He didn't fail to the record of 11-41. I mean, he was 30-34 as the head coach of the Browns and 1-1 in the playoffs. That's a lot different than 11-41.
So why do you think a couple teams brought him in this year, Spags, for the interview? It has nothing to do with the Rooney Rule with him.
I think you want to kick the tires on it because I think you have to do your due diligence and maybe he knocks you over. And a lot of times teams bring guys in for one reason, is to pick their brain about their thoughts and ideas of maybe things that will be brought up that they didn't think about. And they also bring in people that they respect to serve as an outside self-scout of what they think of your roster and where your shortcomings are.
Fair enough.
Sometimes these interviews are done with no intention of hiring the person, but to pick their brain.
Yeah. Look, Papa, I'm with you, bro. I'm just not going to close the book on any chance of him down the road. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, I'm with you. Again, I would love to see him get a job. I would go chin-chin.
I agree.
I don't think it's going to happen. Anyway.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but I'm just not going to close the book. But go ahead.
All right. Sean Jackson's got the last question. Put it up. We'll put it up, Lindsay. And then we got to go because we were supposed to. Every one of these you know what this is like? You know what these
we're at a bar in a restaurant bullshitting. That's what it's like.
Or you and I talked about this off the air. When you go to my family's house for a holiday or anything.
Yeah.
And my kids, they kind of laugh a little bit because their mom's not Italian. So it's a little bit of a different. Lindsay said Jim Schwartz never got another job. Raheem Morris did. Goodbyes in my family and like in most of our Manjacast families.
It's an out. It's
All right,
an
we
hour
got to
event.
get going. It's 11 o'clock. It's Christmas Eve. Santa's coming in the morning. And Sean, we'll answer your question. All right, go around the room. Say goodbye to your aunt. Say goodbye to your cousins that you see very few, not that often. You see your great cousins. You see your grandparents. You see your dad, your mom. Everybody gives a hug, a kiss. Go around. Everybody, oh, good to see you. Da, 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 da. And then a conversation begins, and then there's more goodbyes. And someone's got to go to the bathroom, or someone goes downstairs to they come out, and there's more. And it takes 40 minutes to say goodbye.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what this podcast is. It's taking us 30 minutes now to sign off. All right, Sean Jackson.
Let's get Sean's question in.
If Papa could make the pick for the Giants at 3, who would Papa pick? Chris, who would you pick? Which potentially available player could have the best impact on the Giants if drafted? I go back to the Ernie Accorsi line. You can never have enough pass rushers. If Abdul Carter's there at 3, I'm taking him. I am concerned about the foot injury. Will he need surgery? All that stuff. Everybody says he's generational. Look, Kayvon Thibodeau's a nice player. Has Kayvon Thibodeau knocked your socks off? Is Kayvon Thibodeau consistently a guy that puts pressure on the quarterback every single game? There are games he plays where we don't even say his name. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. He's a good player. He's better against the run than people realize. I give him credit for that.
That he is.
But he is not.
He's not generational talent. He's not a 5th overall type.
He's not Parsons.
Talent.
Okay, and that's not Joe Shane's fault. That's a Gettleman. It's a Joe Judge fault. It's a Joe Judge fault more than Gettleman for not taking Parsons, and an organizational thing. But I would take him. But if you told me that they took Travis Hunter to play corner and to use Travis Hunter in a bunch of different packages on offense, because fans, there's no way Travis Hunter is going to be a two-way player in the NFL, meaning starting on offense, starting on defense. Not feasible in today's NFL. Not feasible.
No.
Impossible. Would not happen.
No.
Because he's not rated that high a wide receiver from a receiver stand. He's an unbelievable athlete with unbelievable ball skills, and he's an incredible athlete, and he made people look silly in college as a receiver. But remember who he's playing against. Now, do I think that in the NFL, based on his ball skills and everything else, that you can't use him on certain series and in certain packages, and you get the ball to the plus 40, and you put Travis Hunter in at wide receiver, and you got packages for him, and then you get down to the high red zone, and you can't? Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm taking one of those two, and I would
Yeah,
lean
I'm with you.
Carter.
I'm with you. I'm taking Abdul Carter myself. No question about it. Like you said, if it was a Hunter, no problem with that too. You can never have enough corners. They'll figure it out with Banks, whatever. And like you said, also I agree with you, Bob. He's the type of kid you have to have packages for him to get him on the receiver. Get him in on the offensive side of the ball. And I think if he is a Giant, I think David will do that. Or anybody who drafts him will do that. But Abdul Carter is a impact kid. I have him in that Micah Parsons class where he could impact the game. That's why I go with him.
And you can always find a way to get him on the field.
Oh, he's going to be on the field. If he's a Giant, he will be on the field. And it's Shane Bowen's job to figure it out as far as with Thibodeau and all that. But he's going to be you don't draft a kid 3rd overall to not be on the field for 50-plus plays. I'm sorry.
Right. And then the onus is on Thibodeau to be like an impact player. Like,
yeah, and then Brian Burns doesn't have to play 50-plus plays like he did last year too, right, Bob? If you have those 3.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, Brian
exactly.
Burns.
And guess what? Hey, guess
He
what?
played a lot last year. He played a lot last year. Injured. He played a lot.
And guess what? Guys get injured in the NFL.
Exactly.
And you got to make the decision. Can you believe not? You and I talked about this. I know you don't like to take shots. I'm not going to take shots.
I don't take shots.
Not one beat writer asked Joe Shane, have you decided if you're going to pick up Kayvon Thibodeau's 50-year option? Isn't that like a big question coming up in the next few weeks? Because we know they're not taking Evan Neal's option.
Yeah. I guess it's a little, you could tell I wasn't at the meetings last week.
You would have been there. You would have been sitting in the back. You would have listened to all these questions.
Yeah.
And then you would have gotten your half a hand up. He would have seen you. Yeah, Chris. Hey, Joe.
Well,
what about Kayvon Thibodeau? Like, you got to make a decision soon. Are you picking up his 50-year option? Because I'm guessing Evan Neal, you're not, but you picking up Thibodeau's option. So just a fair question. It's not a mean question.
I'll tell you how it's going to go down is a couple of weeks from now when we have the pre-draft presser with Joe Shane. People will be watching this podcast and they'll be listening to the Giant Insider podcast, and they're going to be jumping on that right away. I can tell you that right away. But what I like to do at these presses when I feel I need to ask a question, I just basically just go like this. Joe. I put that New York Italian Joe. And then everybody kind of like, whoa. But, other words, like, everybody shut the F up. I'm asking this question now. So that will be asked to Joe Shane at his pre-draft presser. Joe, you do have 2 50-year options coming up.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? Now you're saying on this podcast, the beat writers will watch it.
I just said that. I said, now that's going to be the first or the second. Probably not the first because it's a pre-draft, so somebody will wait to the second, third.
Yeah, they're going to ask a bunch of draft questions first. I think you got a chance to sneak it in.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go quick and say, Joe, just to sidetrack a little bit off the draft, do you mind we have 2 50-year options? Could you talk about the thought process going into that? And then Joe will probably say, yeah, you never know with Shane. Sometimes he'll give you an answer, but I'm sure
he was pretty straightforward about not taking Daniel Jones' 50-year option.
I tell you, he will give you answers at times, Shane. He does. He's done that over the years. He will tell you what he's thinking at times. That's why when he came out and said the other day at the meetings about not forcing anything and it's got to meet the value and all that stuff, it made you wonder if Sanders will be graded that high if he's sitting there at 3.
Well, like I read that tweet, despite what people in the media and fans say, well, yeah, if they take the quarterback, it could save them their jobs because, you got to develop them and it wouldn't be fair. I just gave a whole list. Rewinded this podcast, the amount of head coaches and OCs that got fired with a quarterback after year 1.
Yeah.
Again, the Urban Meyer one doesn't count.
They're covered. No. And look, they got to win games, and they feel they're covered in the quarterback room now with Russell Wilson.
And I think Giant fans would have a lot of respect for Joe Shane if he doesn't force quarterback and takes, because he said from the very beginning, right? I'm not going to mortgage the future of the franchise.
Yeah, he said it numerous times.
Out of desperation. And he said it numerous times. I believe him.
I believe Joe because when he says things like that, he's basically been on point. And look, everybody feels Dave forced Daniel Jones. We all know what happened with that. And like you said, if he does go with a Shedeur Sanders, I think a lot of fan base is going to be like, he's forcing it. They're panicking and all that stuff. Here's my feeling on it. I don't want to get into the Giants too much. We both covered them and all that stuff. But my feeling is...
Plus, you did your podcast last night.
I did a podcast, but just quickly, I said it last night. If Joe does go third, Shedeur third overall, that's how they have him graded, Bob. They think that highly of him. It's not a forced job. I know people will not agree with me.
Job. Well, in the sense that, look, and it's a forced job in the sense of this, and this is not Giant specific. But all these quarterbacks get pushed up. Drake May was not the third best player in the draft last year.
But they needed a quarterback, and they had him graded
Correct.
that high.
They had him high enough.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. No, Pop, I'm not going by who's the best players. I'm just saying that they'll have him graded that high that he's a third overall type draft pick. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Lindsay is going to be mad at me because I didn't say when we had Garafolo on, but she put the graphic up. Please subscribe. It's free to our Believe YouTube channel. Please like and make comments on the audio platforms. We're trying to grow this thing. We started this thing during the conference championship games on a whim, talking smack while we're watching the game. Now it's called a hangout. Nick Faldo did a hangout from the players. My guy Nicky Cass did a Yankee hangout where he was watching the game and then making comments. Well, we did that too. And our plan is when the season starts for standalone games, whether it's Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, whatever it is, we're going to cherry pick games, and Biz and I are going to watch the games on TV, and I might be watching it on a bigger delay than he is, and maybe a bigger delay than you are. But you're going to get our opinions as we drink vino, eat food,
eat a lot of
and
food.
We're going to give you inside information about what we know about these players, and we're going to have fun. We had, Biz, what was our number?
Over 8,000.
We made it up the day of the conference championship game. We started it about a quarter into the Eagles NFC championship game. We took a break at halftime. Charlie Weiss was nice enough to jump on. He's going to be our guest next week in a more formal Senate. And you grew with us. And by the time we got to the fourth quarter of the AFC championship, we had 8,000 people commenting live of me and you watching.
And people stayed with us the whole time for 5+ hours, whatever it was. They stayed with us.
So we're building our audience. We're growing our manja. I'm going to keep cooking for you. We're going to keep eating and drinking with you. All we ask is that you like and comment on the audio.
That's it.
All we ask is that you subscribe and tell friends. We're going to be live. We're going to do this live. We're only doing this live.
Yep.
We're not doing any tape shows.
And we're going to have guests pop doing games, right? Don't forget that. Don't go. We're going to have people doing games. We're going to have guys come in. Guests.
We probably will not go against Manning Casts because Manning Cast is doing what we do, except they got telestrators and shit. But we're going to have fun with it. We're going to talk some smack. We'll bring some guests on. And we're going to just be like me and Biz are sitting on your couch with you or at your local pub or whatever, watching the games. So help us grow, subscribe, like, comment, share, whatever. And we'll keep the recipes coming. At some point when the weather gets a little nicer.
I'm going to be smoking a cigar outside, buddy.
It's nice here. It was 88 today, 84 today.
It's 43 here again.
Yeah. It was cold yesterday when I was up there for one day.
I forgot you up here yesterday. Yeah.
One day, up, down. Except my 6:30 a.m. got canceled, so I didn't fly up until 10:30. Took the 9:14 back, but I'm doing the same thing next Tuesday. But when I'm up and down a little bit, but I'm gonna venture away from Italian. You like mahi mahi?
Yeah, I like mahi mahi.
You like cod? You like shrimp?
I'm not a big cod. Oh, shrimp's my favorite. Yeah.
Wait till you see my tacos.
Yeah, you tell me about
avocado lime crema.
Yeah, you tell me about your little.
I make this slaw that has no mayonnaise in it, but it gives it a little texture. Homemade guacamole. I marinate this shrimp. Is that on the menu next for Charlie next Tuesday? No, I'll probably do it. I'll text Charlie in the next couple of days, find out what he likes to eat. He's lost like almost 100 pounds.
Well, he was on with us, a month ago, and I couldn't believe how much weight he lost. Yeah.
You should see him now. He's lost even more.
Wow. Okay.
He looks great.
Good for him.
His wife, Maura, always looks great. Now he looks great.
Good for him.
So, Captain America said it's almost gelato weather. Nice. How you doing? All right, let's chin. We got to get out of here. Lindsay's like, would you guys shut up?
I know. Sorry, Linz. You know us. We can't say goodbye. Chin, my friend. I'll see you next
We're
week.
Italian. We can't say goodbye. That's what we do. It took us 30 minutes. Look, she texted me. She said, let's say goodbye. Lindsay.
Yeah, we're saying goodbye.
We're Italian. You're not. A goodbye takes 30 minutes. I wanted to wrap this thing up at 10:16. It's 32 minutes. Biz, take us off the air.
Folks, we'll see you next week. Don't forget, subscribe and like.
And who's our guest?
And thank you, special guest to Mike Garafolo for coming on and sharing the insight. Nobody does it better than Mike. Folks,
And
we'll see you next week. Charlie
Next
White's
week.
coming on next week, breaking down the quarterbacks. Boom!
Manja Cash.
Enjoy, everybody. Thank you. See you next week.